we were supposed to get married and spend my whole life with Rachel.
Do you think that she was targeted?
I do, 100%.
At 2:07 a.m. on a warm Arizona night, a 911 dispatcher picked up a call that would stay with her forever. "I've been hurt," the voice said. It was 19-year-old Rachel Hansen. She was barely conscious, alone in her Gilbert apartment. "Someone broke in and hurt me," she said. Her voice was clear, controlled, but urgent. She begged the dispatcher to hurry. Then, almost like she was realizing it for the first time, she told them just how hurt she was. There was no one else in the apartment with her. The dispatcher asked if she could press a towel or shirt against the wound. She responded, "No. Rachel, I need you to stay with me. Talk to me." Rachel said, "I can't." The line was quiet. Her attacker was already gone, vanished into the night. There were no security cameras, no witnesses, and no one clear reason why anyone would want to do this. But strangely, this wasn't the first time that someone had come into Rachel's room uninvited. But the first time, they didn't bring a weapon. They brought something else. A strange, and I mean very strange, kind of warning. Something you will have never seen before. Something that you could never guess. By the way, this is Dark Case, and you can call me Jack. I bring you rare and unseen true crime cases, as well as other things that you may later regret knowing, with multiple uploads every single week. So if all of that sounds like your kind of thing, then make sure you join the Dark Case family now by hitting subscribe and turning all notifications on. And now for today's silly little question. If you had $5, £5, or 5 of your currency, and you had to buy yourself a little treat, what would you buy? Let me know down in the comments. Quick update for you, the Dark Case Patreon is now no more. However, I have created some new tiers here on YouTube memberships, so there are some new perks including exclusive videos, early access, as well as a behind the scenes podcast that I record in my car in a cemetery. And I'm not joking. But now, on with the video. Rachel Hansen lived alone in a third-floor unit at the district lofts in Gilbert, Arizona. This was just 3 miles from her parents' home. Inside the unit, Rachel's bedroom door had been kicked in, but the front door, that showed no signs of forced entry. At first, the police were left wondering, did the killer have a key? But the origin of the story of the front door started just a few days earlier. This is a haunting detail in a case filled with them. Another haunting detail was that this was not the first time that someone had opened their bedroom door in the middle of the night. The first time, they brought Pickles. Yes, you heard me right, Pickles. Just 4 days before she met her end, Rachel sent a text message to her fiance. It was May the 31st, 2022, just after midnight. Rachel had woken up suddenly. Someone had opened her bedroom door. They had stared at her, then they closed it and walked out. No words were exchanged. By the time she got up to check, they were gone. But in the kitchen, sitting on the counter, was a jar of pickles. This was a jar that Rachel had not purchased. And in what could have been a real sliding doors moment of this case, Rachel did not call the police. She told fiancé Joe that she thought it was probably one of the people who used to live there, her former tenants from when she subletted the flat. These would be the people that she had just asked to move out. You see, Rachel had been subleasing her apartment for months to a couple that she found online. According to multiple sources though, they'd filled the place with random guests, they partied late into the night, and they caused concern among the neighbours. Some people even believe that they were selling illicit substances from that unit. Rachel, ever independent, she didn't tell her parents too much about this. But when she moved back into her apartment on June the 1st, this was just 3 days before she met her end, she found that the place reeked of green to the point that she just couldn't ignore it. She had to scrub it all down, open the windows, replace furniture. It really sounds like they trashed the place. The lock to the door was broken, so Rachel did what any sensible person would do. She changed the locks. Or at least she tried her best. According to her mom, Kim Hansen, the lock that she and fiance Joe installed only latched from the inside. This means that if you forgot to lock it before bed, that anyone could just open it and walk in. So this might be exactly what happened on the night of the pickles. And then again 4 days later on Rachel's final night. We don't know exactly why Rachel didn't file a police report about the pickle incident, but perhaps it was because she was focused on moving in, on restarting her business, and on dealing with an even more immediate crisis. Her horse had just been stolen. Rachel's horse's name was Dash. She had raised her from a young age, trained her by hand, and she posted videos of her progress for her clients to see. To Rachel, Dash was not just a horse. She was family, and she was pregnant too. But now she was gone. On May the 31st, her father Todd got a text message. This message was from the owners of the ranch where Rachel had been working and living before moving back into the apartment. The ranch where Rachel had recently been fired from. Father Todd had just loaded up Rachel's belongings. He was on his way back to pick up Dash, and he texted the ranch owners to let them know that he'd be arriving soon. Their reply: "No need to come, the horse has been removed. Contact our attorney." Dash had now vanished from the property. There was no explanation, no forwarding address, if horses have them, and later on, the ranch owners would demand $7,500 to return Dash. They were claiming that Rachel owed the money for a failed horse trade and for a $950 breeding fee. To Rachel and her family, this felt like a kind of ransom. All of these things together meant that Rachel was having a tough time. She'd really been spiraling. Losing the job had shaken her confidence. And now Dash, her most prized companion, was gone too. Kim, Rachel's mother, later said she was in full panic. She felt violated, betrayed, and she was terrified she wouldn't get Dash back. Rachel started blasting posts across social media, Facebook, Instagram, anywhere that people in the equine world might see them. But then the threats started. She would receive anonymous messages, fake Facebook accounts. They were demanding money. It's still not 100% clear if these were connected to the ranch owners, to the previous tenants, or to someone else entirely. But what we do know is that Rachel was being harassed online by somebody, or maybe multiple people, and they wanted something from her, something that they believed she owed them. When police later searched her devices, though, they reportedly found nothing unusual. According to the lead detective, Rachel was squeaky clean. There were no risky messages, no drama, no criminal activity. But that doesn't mean that everyone around her, everyone she came into contact with, was clean too. Just hours before she met her end, she told her mother on the phone, "Everything's finally getting better. I feel safe here." It seems that she truly believed that, but now we know she was wrong. On the evening of June the 3rd, 2022, Rachel was in her apartment with fiance Joe Met. They ordered food, watched a movie, they swam in the complex pool, they talked about their future. Rachel had big plans for her horse training business. She was also licensed to sell real estate. Her horse Dash, although missing, she did know she was pregnant, and that was something that she wanted and that made her happy. Her 20th birthday was also just 9 days away, and earlier that day she'd spoken to her mother on the phone. She said, "I love you, Mom. I'll see you Sunday. You can help me finish moving in." Nothing seemed off to anyone involved. Rachel was tired, she had a lot to do. But for the first time in a long time, things had started to feel manageable again. Around midnight, Joe got ready to leave. This is because he had to be up early the next morning. As he slipped out, he gently woke Rachel and reminded her, "Hey, get up and lock the door behind me." Rachel mumbled okay. She rolled over, but she must have just gone to sleep. She did not get up. And because, as we know, the front door had to be locked manually, it did not secure itself when Joe left. Sometime after Joe left, between 12 a.m. and 2 a.m., someone entered the unit. The front door showed no signs of forced entry, but why would it? Because we know it was unlocked. They crossed the quiet apartment. They stepped into Rachel's hallway, and then they kicked open her bedroom door. Neighbours didn't report hearing anything. No raised voices, no struggles, not even a deafening blast. Whoever entered her room pulled the trigger only once. The bullet travelled through Rachel's abdomen and out through her upper shoulder. She was likely still lying on her back in bed. The shooter left immediately, and it seems they took nothing other than the shell casing. Otherwise, they said nothing, left no evidence, and maybe most frustrating of all, there was no CCTV footage. This is for two reasons. The apartment complex had no cameras in the hallways, and what few cameras they did have on the property, they were fake. Somehow, Rachel got up. She crawled from the bed to the bathroom. She picked up her phone and she dialed 911. Someone broke in and shot me. That was the first thing that Rachel said to the dispatcher. She gave her address, told them that she was alone. The dispatcher asked her to stay on the line. They also told her to apply pressure to the wound. Do you have any kind of clean cloth? Is there a towel or a shirt near you? Rachel replied, no. The dispatcher asked again, are you close to any kind of cloth you can use? Once again, she responded, no. Then there was a period of silence. The dispatcher continued, Rachel, I need you to talk to me, okay? Rachel said, I can't. She was found on the bathroom floor just minutes later. First responders arrived fast, under 5 minutes in fact. Doctors then worked on her for 3 hours at the hospital in Chandler. However, they couldn't save her. It was June the 4th. She'd been home for just 3 days. She would turn 20 in 9 days.
This goes through my mind all the time.
Jomette Bailey was her fiance. He says for someone who is so full of life and love, he can't make sense of it.
This caused so much pain. You know, we were supposed to get married and spend my whole life with Rachel. And now I just have to live with just the fact that she's not here.
Rachel told police she didn't know the gunman. Authorities are investigating, but with few answers. Loved ones are begging for any clue as to what happened.
And we just can't understand it because she was so young and so full of life and had so much life ahead of her.
On that night, in the worst of circumstances, Rachel had done everything right. She called for help. She spoke clearly. She stayed awake. But the 911 transcript, when it was finally released, was not enough for her parents. We wanted to hear her voice, her mother Kim said. We wanted to hear her last words. The actual ones, not just a redacted page. Instead, what they got was almost nothing. A 350-page police report, heavily redacted, with no arrests made.
I was not looking for it, didn't expect it.
Rachel Hansen's mom, Kim, surprised to see the police report in her daughter's case sent to her from Gilbert police. Rachel shot in her own gated Gilbert apartment back on June 4th, 2022. Body cam video from the early morning call released about a month ago, along with the 911 transcript from the call Rachel made herself. But now we're getting a first look at the over 330-page police report, which details what investigators learned through interviews and search warrants.
I was shocked when I saw it in my email. And it is what we expected in that it is very redacted.
The report details multiple strange things in the days before the shooting. Rachel moving back into her apartment she had been subletting. A leasing agent at the Gilbert complex reporting neighbors making a noise complaint, saying multiple people were yelling in Rachel's apartment around that time. A maintenance worker later discovering the unit's locks had been changed. The report also saying Rachel told her fiance she woke up to someone inside her apartment, but they ultimately left.
My first reaction was, why didn't you call the police that night?
Kim remembers Rachel telling her this over 2 years ago.
But she just thought it was somebody that was friends with the people that had the apartment prior to her moving in. And so it startled her, it frightened her.
Parts of the report mention possible persons of interest. It also details Rachel's change in job and her mental health struggles. In February of this year, the case marked inactive. The report says all leads exhausted.
I am feeling more confident than I was initially. maybe just because some things are happening.
These pages, now another piece of the puzzle. Recently, a private investigator, Justin Yentes, taking Rachel's case. The teen's parents also working to raise the silent witness reward being offered for information.
We want justice for Rachel, and so we're just hopeful that everybody working together can reach that goal.
ABC 15 is working to get our own copy of that report. We did reach out to Gilbert Police on Tuesday.
For 2 years, that was all there was, except for one detail buried in that report, something that almost nobody noticed at first. 6 weeks before Rachel passed, she'd been threatened by someone her parents hadn't wanted to suspect.
Rachel's friend of several years, Hayden Smith, was one of the last people to speak with her. Smith tells me she has been in direct contact with detectives about her friend's death.
Do you think that she was targeted?
I do. 100%.
6 weeks earlier, a call came in to Gilbert Police. It involved Rachel, her fiance Joe Met, and Joe's father. According to records, and confirmed in interviews with Rachel's mother, there had been an altercation. Rachel was physically pulled from a car by Joe's dad. And, almost unbelievably, he reportedly yelled at her, and he said, "If I ever see you again, I'll kill you." Police were obviously called, a report was made. So when Rachel placed her 911 call on June the 4th, local police knew exactly who she was. They knew her name. They knew that she'd been recently threatened with death. But even now, no arrest has been made. Rachel's family is quick to point out that they don't believe fiance Joe had anything to do with it. They say he was kind, devoted, and still goes to their house for dinner. But what about Joe's father? What about the threats? What about the couple who subleased the apartment? What about the ranch owners who demanded that ransom? All those doors to knock on, and yet no one has been charged. I find it so shocking that Rachel was getting a hard time from so many people. The stress that she must have been feeling, it must have been huge. And then somehow things reached their final conclusion, and her time was ended. For nearly a year, the investigation was listed as suspended due to lack of leads. It was only after public pressure and a media push that Gilbert PD reopened the case. They've since released the redacted police report. They've released heavily blurred body cam footage, and that's pretty much it. Rachel's parents, Kim and Todd, they have now stopped expecting any answers. Now they expect nothing. We just have to resolve ourselves to the fact, Kim said, that we may never know who took Rachel's life. They do though still feel her presence there with them. They even started Rachel's Rescue. This is a dog rescue that has now rehomed over 300 animals. They named Dash's foal Danny, D for Dash, A-N for Anne, Rachel's middle name, and Y after the horse's father.
Out in the Hansens' backyard, something was born from the pain. An animal rescue in Rachel's honor. Dogs playing freely.
Don't chase him.
A new litter of puppies commanding attention. Goats and birds offering much-needed joy.
Oh, they're just so loving.
And of course, Rachel's prized horse Dash,
Ready to eat, huh?
who now has a foal in tow.
I did not see myself being in the business of horse training again at this age.
Rachel's happy place, a sanctuary for all the animals that she loved.
I would do anything for her.
And a sanctuary for her mom.
Hanging up here is a wind chime. Every time I hear it, I just feel Rachel's presence.
Todd got the date of Rachel's death tattooed on his arm. Kim's tattoo quotes Rachel's favourite song, "In Oceans Deep, My Faith Will Stand." The reward for information in her case currently stands at $15,000, but it seems that either nobody knows or they're too scared to come forward. Whoever pulled that trigger at 2 a.m, whoever walked into that corner unit and did this to Rachel, they may still be living in Gilbert. They may still have contact with the family. What do you think happened here? Let me know down in the comments. And also specifically, what are your thoughts on those pickles being left in the apartment? Really strange. Be careful out there, and I'll see you soon.